A meeting to order. And the first thing to do, of course, is do the campus sound checks. So, Wes, can you hear us okay?
Yes, we can.
Okay, thanks, Stefan. Downtown? Can you hear us downtown?
We can hear you. Do you guys hear him? He's speaking.
Downtown? Yeah, we can hear you. Okay. Holly, can you hear us?
We are fine, hearing you well.
Okay. All right, so the next, Chuck, I guess we need to check the clickers, right? Okay. So if you would everybody take your clicker and give us the appropriate answer. Hopefully everybody gets it right. Okay, you can close it, Chuck. Well, we did pretty well. Almost everybody got it exactly right. So do you want to do a next one? Okay, we have one more. I think that's where we called it last time, Chuck. So go ahead. Yep, got one more. Even better. Terrific. Okay, thank you all. First order of business is to hear from Chairman Bill Ridenour of the Board of Regents, and I'd like to welcome him to the podium. Thank you.
Well, first, I want to thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to be here today. I think I could answer most of those questions up there. I would have gotten that last one right, all of the above. All I can say is I picked a fine time to be chairman of the Board of Regents. There's a lot going on. You read the headlines all the time. Just a little bit by way of my background. I'm a fourth-generation Arizonan. Grew up in northern Arizona. Started my education in a little one-room schoolhouse with one teacher for 8 grades in Oatman, Arizona. I'm not sure if any of you know where that is. It's a ghost town with the burros roaming the streets. Then went to the University of Arizona. Undergrad and law degree at the University of Arizona. So a little bit of my background. Make no mistake about it, I think the Board of Regents and public higher education in the state of Arizona is under attack. It has always been some undercurrents about those issues, but I think more lately there has been more of an effort to undermine the Board of Regents and the universities, and I can really lay this initially at the lawsuit brought by the Attorney General. As you are aware, this originally started out as a DACA issue. The Board of Regents took a position that the DACA students were entitled to in-state tuition. We did that after a lower court ruling, which was overturned by a Court of Appeals ruling. All the Board of Regents wanted to do was make sure we knew what the law was, the settled law. So we were waiting on either one, the Supreme Court of the state of Arizona to make a ruling, or two, some kind of federal legislation, which, I would have thought there would have been something by now. So the Attorney General was under pressure to do something about that position for the Board of Regents. And by the way, so DACA students, even if they have in-state tuition, they're not entitled to any kind of state aid or scholarships. So if your sticker price of tuition is $11,000 and the average cost to attend ASU is about $3,000, they don't avail themselves of that opportunity. So their real sticker price, unless they get private aid, is the $10,700. So it's hard to flip back and forth between whatever court is orders at the time, so we took that position. The Attorney General was under pressure to bring some kind of suit from other groups. Unfortunately, that was expanded into a general lawsuit on tuition, and then it morphed into not so much tuition as being nearly free as possible, or the cost of instruction being nearly free as possible as it was tuition, and then it went into low-cost degrees. What are we doing about that? And then eventually it morphed into more of a class warfare type situation, that the wealthy are getting merit scholarships, the lower income are need-based, and so it leaves the middle class as supporting the entire universities, which is not true. So anyway, against that background, there's been a lot of consternation in the legislature about that lawsuit and what the Board of Regents is doing and what the universities are doing, especially Arizona State University. They've been in the news more than NAU and the U of A. There was legislation introduced this legislative session to break up the Board of Regents. What they would do would be appoint 3 separate boards over 3 separate universities, and guess who would appoint those people? It would be the legislature, and the whole purpose behind that is control. The legislatures, some legislators have always been upset. They think this is a bastion of liberal thought, and everybody is directing the students in a certain direction. And by breaking up the Board of Regents and by putting separate governing bodies, they think they're better able to control course content and instruction and who's hired as professors. In fact, there was at least one legislator that said he would withdraw that bill if the University of Arizona hired 4 professors, conservative professors at the University of Arizona Law School. So that's kind of what we're faced with. I don't know where that's going to go. As far as I know, it hasn't been assigned to committee. But we're going to face that year by year by year as to what the Board of Regents is doing. There are a couple of other pieces of legislation which are very concerning. One is the weapons bill, which you may have been reading about, allowing non-lethal weapons on campus. The problem is, what is the definition of non-lethal weapons? And it originally started out, can you carry tasers on campus? But the list of those items that are non-lethal is voluminous and worrisome, such as shotguns that shoot beanbags and other types of weapons. So the board is very much opposed to that. We'll see how that goes. More concerning is another bill introduced by Representative Leach, which would tax university properties. or any development on university properties. And all of you have probably been reading about this. This has gotten Dr. Crow very excised, and I don't blame him. He feels that ASU was singled out on this because of various projects and developments that ASU has, such as the Facilities District over here, or Novus, and the State Farm Complex. The reason all that's important is because there's been a paradigm shift in how the universities are funded. So as little as 10 years ago, 75% of the cost of instruction for an in-state student was borne by the state of Arizona. Today it's 34%. So universities have had to come up with other sources of revenue to make sure that the in-state students' cost of attendance is alleviated so that you can get it down to that $4,000 or $3,000 figure. And one of the things that we do, or the universities do, is take their assets and make the best use of them. So that would be their real estate assets. So this is very important to the universities, very important to the Board of Regents, and we need to make sure that we're opposed to that bill, and we're hopeful that bill will not go through, certainly without some kinds of amendments or deeper thought on it. And the reason, one of the other reasons that we're so dependent on outside income is the in-state, out-of-state, international student. So much of what we have with the international and out-of-state students is the income from those students to help subsidize or alleviate the cost of tuition for the in-state students. So it's critical to the universities that the international students and the out-of-state students continue to come here. And that's really where you're all involved. There's been a large debate about the cost of college education. Is it worth it? And so it is worth it, but it's changing out there. And so the courses have to be relevant to what's going on in the world and the jobs and where the jobs are going to be. It's important that the universities be research universities, in that this is where the students get on-hands experience as to what is going on in the market and how things are changing. It's up to you to develop critical thinking skills, and these are a lot of the interdisciplinary courses that you've all come up with. And so it's, like I say, extremely important, not only from a revenue standpoint, but that the universities are relevant and their courses are relevant. And so we're faced with that. We're faced with a Hispanic population. 50% of K-12 is Hispanic, or will be soon. We're worried about the pipeline, how many people are coming to the universities, how many people are coming to the community colleges. Those numbers have not increased over the years. So again, it all comes back to the faculty and how you make your courses and your instruction relevant to future jobs, make it relevant to the Hispanic population. So I want to thank you because you're doing a tremendous job. Thank goodness for ASU. There's a reason why you've been named the most innovative university for 3 years in a row. So it's a testament to all of you and what you do, and we're very thankful. So thank you. Does anyone have any questions? I don't know how much time I have here, but I can take a couple of questions.
Hi, I'm Dave Wells with the Faculty of Liberal Leadership and Interdisciplinary Studies. The ABOR adopted a a goal for the legislature and the state to fund half the cost of undergraduate Arizona resident students a few years ago. There's absolutely no indication that the legislature has any intention in the near future or the forthcoming years to come anywhere close to that. They would need to come up with about $250 million extra dollars to do that. Is ABOR discussing what their options are in regards to trying to make that a reality as opposed to simply a poster board?
Yes, so last year we did have something that was very beneficial to the universities and ABOR. That was the bonding package. That was a $1 billion package that allows the universities to build new buildings, that allows the universities to take care of deferred maintenance. So we put that on the front burner last year. Always on the front burner is this funding model that, as long as the legislature can hopefully fund 50% of an in-state student's education, we'll do the rest, or the universities have promised to do the rest. We're falling a bit behind on that, and this year I'm not hopeful that we're going to see substantial progress. So I think it's moved from 34% to 32% or 33%. So it is a big number that we're seeking. Hopefully, as the revenue projections increase, and there are some indications that there could be as much as $200 million additional revenue this year, we hope to be able to get some more money toward that funding model. You got to realize that, and it's unfortunate, but we've been pitted against K-12 as to who gets the money and where is it most important. So I think we'll make some progress. It's not the progress I'd like to see. I think as everything hopefully improves, we'll do a little bit better with that funding model. I might comment also, one of the horrible things is we're subsidizing the health insurance for the employees of the state of Arizona, and it is a hit to the universities especially, so we're asking that we not take that hit. Last year it was about a $23 million hit, and that would help if we didn't have to subsidize the cost of employee health insurance.
So let me check and see if there are the other campuses.
Any questions from the other campuses?
Either this was so profound or you're stunned. So thank you very much.
Thank you, sir. Okay. I should, by the way, mention that we have an addition to the agenda, which is Morgan Olson, Chief Thompson, and Associate Vice President Luoma, I believe, who are going to speak a little bit based on reactions to what happened in Florida this week. There were some requests on that, and we thought we would bring the pros in on those kinds of things. That would be somewhat later. That's scheduled right now for 3:45. So first, let me congratulate my colleague, Hong-Min Lee, who is the senator in the spotlight this month. Hong-Min's been a good colleague over at our place, and it's nice to see her stepping up at the Senate. She's done a number of things already, and we're looking forward to her continuing to be active on that. I would just like to follow up the questions. You could pretty well tell what was going on through my mind when we put the questions up there about sexual harassment and harassment in general. That came about because Dr. Crow expressed some concerns that the faculty was not as engaged in the training as they might be. I don't think he was concerned so much about the behavior, at least I hope not, but certainly that the training was not up to snuff. And I would urge all of the senators to A, make sure that you have taken the training. It's about 90 minutes. And make sure as well that your constituents are aware that they need to take that training. It is mandatory. Now, how that gets enforced is beyond me, but it is mandatory. So, the Online Education Task Force has an initial survey that is now finalized. There have been some concerns about that survey, but we're going to put it out tomorrow. It will go initially to you, the Senate. We will ask you to fill it out, as well as passing it on to your other faculty colleagues. And we certainly hope to get a significant group of responses to that. This particular survey is really about how people in the faculty feel about the way online education is going around here. There's no question that's the growth engine for this place. And we really do believe the faculty needs to get on top of it. The task force has worked very hard on that. And I would urge you to take a look at it when you get it and also fill it out. So thank you all for that. Following up on last year's letter on faculty salaries, which I hope many of you remember, we forwarded another one to Dr. Crow this year and got a very, what I would call cooperative response. I'm very interested in doing that. So we'll be looking at faculty salary equity versus both the ABOR peer-reviewed or ABOR peer institutions and the Pac-12. And that will be an ongoing study that I'm sure we'll get to hopefully by the end of the year. I should mention as well that the students relative to DACA, which Chairman Ridenour mentioned, the students of the university have organized a dinner for scholarship benefits for DACA. That takes place tomorrow. It will be from 6:30 to 9, and you can also find a way to donate if you can't make it to dinner. It's in the Carson Ballroom. So I don't know how many people they're expecting, but anyway, if you can't make it to dinner, there is a way to donate through ASU 2020 on that. Are there any questions on that? Anybody have any concerns? Questions anywhere? Okay. We did have breakfast with the regents on February 9th. I was sitting at Chairman Ridenour's table. And it went pretty well, I think. There's certainly a lot of energy in the room, and people are concerned in particular about making sure that general education is properly represented and is properly set up. As you probably know, or I think we've already announced, there is a task force on this campus or at this university relative to general ed. We have two people, in fact, two people sitting in front of me who are on the task force. And they're both telling me it's going faster than they ever expected. So that's a good thing, I think. Chuck and Pam represented the faculty down at the Capitol on February 14th, even though they got rained out for the last half of it. Apparently they did have a number of people come by and pick up and ask questions about what the faculty means and what the faculty does at ASU. So I think that was, again, a positive thing. Chuck, do you have anything you might want to say about that? Nope. Okay, good. Several of us ended up in Seattle at the Pac-12 Leadership Conference, and I can assure you that there are a lot of very similar concerns at the other universities, although we're actually in better shape than several of them in terms of, I would say, the relationships with the grievance process and relationships with the administration. But there are the usual kinds of things that you can imagine. Academic freedom is a big deal to those folks. They have funding issues and salary compression issues there as well. And in fact, the person who was hosting the conference was from a subsidiary campus of the University of Washington, which meant we had some very interesting discussions about how main campus versus subsidiary campus works. She happens to be in the business school, so I could even talk about that. And now I think I will turn things over to Dave Wells for his discussion of how things are going on the non-tenure eligible subcommittee.
I'm Dave Wells. I'm chairing a subcommittee of the Personnel Committee related to non-tenure eligible faculty. And generally, our charge is to essentially look for ways to enhance the standing of non-tenure eligible faculty across the university in a bunch of different ways. We're fortunate to have a really wide and representative group of people who have been involved in the committee, ranging from two of our past presidents of the Senate with Tom and Helene, and then we have representation across a lot of non-tenure eligible ranks and across a number of campuses as well. We haven't met with Sandra yet, but we're glad to have Sandra joining us from the downtown campus. Essentially where we are so far, we're trying to look at a number of ways, again, to enhance the standing for non-tenure eligible faculty. One of the issues is related to the Emeritus College. What we've discovered is there's actually no physical barrier to non-tenure eligible faculty joining the Emeritus College. You have to be at ASU at least 10 years, regardless of your particular tenure or non-tenure eligible standing, but you have to go through a sort of an approval process. It starts at the unit, goes to the college, and finally it's the provost's office and be approved to do so. And you have to do it at the time of your retirement. We're currently exploring it, but it seems to be that in some units, this doesn't seem to be handled equivalently for non-tenure eligible faculty the same way as it's handled with tenured faculty. So we're certainly exploring that, and we're trying to figure out ways to try to encourage an equal opportunity there. On professional development, colleges vary a great deal on how much they support faculty, but we're trying to figure out a way to make sure or encourage units to provide a minimum professional development support. And just to give you an idea of the lower end of things is that if somebody was a keynote speaker at a conference, or some units that would not enhance the amount of money that they would give to support that person to go there, and they don't provide enough money to cover the full cost. Typically, it costs about at least $700 to attend any conference that's outside the state these days. Many units don't provide that amount or roll it over to the next year. So we're going to work on wording related to that. Technically, those of us on single-year contracts have no guarantee of employment for the next year. If you're in a K-12 situation, they generally notify you in April, for instance, of your contract for the following year. We find with academic professionals who happen to be on a year-to-year contract that the university has to provide a 90-day notice. We're trying to explore some parallel kind of language that could provide some level of protection. I mean, in most cases, people on single-year contracts are renewed, but in the event that something were to go awry, we'd like to see if we can provide a little bit more security or protection for folks on single-year contracts. And then related to the online task force, or coexisting with it, there's the financial challenge that we face. As I say, the $750 or $250 is the amount of money provided per 3-credit class to the unit delivering the instruction. And I've given you a basic math example to show you why that presents a challenge and why it often leads to pressures to hire instructors rather than lecturers. Because as you can see with somebody who's paid $45,000 a year, including their employment-related expenses, ERE, that you have a break-even point that's somewhere possibly around 39 students, and that's simply too high. And we want to simply continue to encourage the administration to reconsider the way in which units who are delivering that quality instruction at the online level receive financial compensation for it. We do have a growing number of instructors. The instructors do not have a career path, but we do know that when instructors perform very well and they meet a whole bunch of other criteria, it takes time for us to do search committees and then hire those people into new positions. And that's not necessarily the best use of all faculty's time if we know somebody's highly qualified for the position. So we're going to try to explore ways in which the instructors could potentially move into a lecturer position if they met criteria that would generally be equivalent to a lecturer. Another area that we're exploring initially would be paid as well as unpaid time off for non-tenure eligible faculty, especially those on multi-year contracts. Would be certainly there are professional development opportunities sometimes that would take us away from the university, and there's certainly no guarantee that your job gets held for you if you have a single-year contract. But if you have a multi-year contract, there ought to be greater flexibility, we hope, for the institution to be able to retain people as they try to improve their professional development and standing. And finally, we're in the process of getting numbers so we can do this calculation, but understanding the number of people who are on multi-year contracts currently, as well as the number of people who could potentially be eligible for multi-year contracts based on the criteria that the administration laid forth a couple years ago. And we're trying to get that information, and we hope to evaluate it. I look forward to, if you have any comments or any kinds of feedback for us, you're welcome to give that to me now, or you can give it to any member of the committee, or feel free to send me an email with that. We're meeting tomorrow at 3 o'clock, so if you have any feedback and you can get it to us before 3 o'clock tomorrow, that would be fantastic.
Okay, Chuck, you want to take that down? Okay, now I'd like to call Caroline Harrison up for the new business part of the meeting.
The following proposals will be discussed at the upcoming CAPC meeting Thursday, March 1st, and then those on the new business slate will be brought back up in front of the Senate on the 26th for discussion and vote. As always, if you have any suggestions, questions, concerns, please get them to me preferably before 10 a.m. on Thursday, so we have a chance to make sure the right people are available at CAPC, and certainly before we present them again at the next Senate, so we make sure we have the right people available to answer any questions. Excuse me. First of all, a request from the College of Health Solutions School for the Science of Healthcare Delivery for the establishment of a graduate program, Master of International Health Management. Request from the Walter Cronkite School of Journalism and Mass Communication for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BS in Digital Audiences. Request from the College of Public Service and Community Solutions, School of Community Resources and Development for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BS in Recreation Therapy, and request from the School for the Future of Innovation in Society for the establishment of a graduate program, PhD in Innovation in Global Development.
As always, those are first reads, so please do give Caroline any feedback that you have. I believe she will be meeting Thursday, right? So it's a good time to do it. Now I'd like to ask LaDawn Haglund to come up and introduce for the first read on a motion from the Student Faculty Policy Committee.
We have a Senate Motion 2018-32 from the Student Faculty Policy Committee, title Resolution on Graders and Teaching Assistants. The action requested is the Senate Student Faculty Policy Committee and the University Academic Council recommend approval of this resolution, which is as follows. Whereas classes have become larger in many units without a corresponding rise in course support, graders and TAs, whereas lack of transparency in allocation of course support has created inequities and inconsistencies among faculty and graduate student teachers, whereas taking into account specific identifiable factors such as course type, online, in-person, writing intensive, etc., instructor type, and tenured professor, graduate student, faculty associate, instructor, etc., instructor course load and administrative duties, course enrollment, etc. Taking into account these specific identifiable factors can contribute to the establishment of more manageable and equitable workloads and ensure the overall quality of course instruction. And whereas classes without adequate course support may negatively impact the professional trajectory of teaching professionals and compromise the quality of education offered to students, be it resolved that the University Senate of Arizona State University, representing all faculty members and academic professionals, recommends 1, the provost require all units across the university to work with their faculty to create written policies regarding course enrollment limits in their unit. And 2, the provost require all units across the university to work with their faculty to create written policies regarding allocation of course support, graders, and TAs in their units.
Okay, again, please give any feedback you have to LaDonna and to Dan McCarville, who runs that committee, or to anyone else on the committee. Now we have Stefania Traconia, who has another motion from that same committee.
This is Senate Motion 2018-37, introduced by the University Senate Student Faculty Policy Committee. The title of the motion is Amending ACD 304-10 Course Syllabus. The proposed changes are, the committee recommends 4 changes to be made to ACD 304-10. Senators may view these changes in the accompanying track changes document found in the top right-hand portion of this page. Well, the page where it's in your agenda. Change number 1, add a new requirement in ACD 304-10, number 12, to read as follows. Policy on sexual discrimination as described in ACD 401, prohibition against discrimination, harassment, and retaliation, including the fact that the instructor is a mandated reporter and therefore obligated to report any information regarding alleged acts of sexual discrimination. Rationale: this has been a requirement from prior notices distributed by ASU senior leadership. Change number 2, add a new requirement in ACD 304-10, number 13, to read as follows. A warning to students that they must refrain from uploading to any course shell, discussion board, or website used by the course instructor or other course forum material that is not the student's original work unless the students first comply with all applicable copyright laws. Faculty members reserve the right to delete materials on grounds of suspected copyright infringement. Rationale: faculty have reported that students have been abusing course discussion boards and forums by uploading copyrighted material without proper attribution or permission. Change number 3. In the third paragraph from the bottom, replace the existing language to read as follows. The instructor may want to state that the course content, including lectures, are copyrighted materials. Students may not share outside the class, upload, sell, or distribute course content or notes taken during the conduct of the course. See ACD 304-06, Commercial Note-Taking Services for more information. Rationale: it has been reported that students have been uploading and selling course materials to commercial websites without proper attribution or permission. Change number 4. After the third paragraph from the bottom of the current policy, insert the following. The instructor may want to place on each page or online equivalent of all instructional materials provided or made available to students the following statement. This content is protected and may not be shared, uploaded, sold, or distributed. Rationale: many ASU exams, presentations, book chapters, and other materials are illegally sold by students to sites such as Course Hero. The change number 4 statement is optional, but recommended based on ASU negotiation with Course Hero. Course Hero has agreed to adopt an automatic copyright filter, which is designed to stop copyrighted content from being posted to CourseHero.com. If the change number 4 statement is included in instructors' course-related materials, the Course Hero filter will prevent the material from being uploaded to their site.
So once again, if you have feedback for the committee, please do let them know as quickly as you can. We will be voting on both of those motions next meeting. With that, I would like to introduce the new course proposal consent agenda, and you can take a look at that. You want to bring it up, Chuck? Sure. Okay. Okay. I think you can see these have all been posted and proposed. So does anyone have any reason to take one of these courses off of the consent agenda? Let's go to the other campuses first, if we could. We do that? Yeah. Anybody at West?
We are good.
Okay. Downtown?
We're good, thank you.
Thank you. Polly?
We're good with this consent agenda.
Okay, and I don't see anybody coming up to the mic at Tempe. So I think with that, we will take a vote. And I think the consent agenda passes handily. Thank you all. Ordinarily, we would go now to the consent agenda on programs. However, Dr. Olson, Chief Thompson, and other people are in the back, and they've agreed to talk a little bit about things that we may want to do in, I hope we never see it, in the case of something like a parkland situation, Florida situation. So, Morgan, come on up.
Is mine here? Well, thank you, Ernie, for the invitation today. Happy to be here. I have brought my few friends with me here, but let me make a couple of introductory comments. First, as your president indicated, obviously we are watching all kinds of events all the time, really carefully. We want ASU to continue to be the absolute safest community it possibly can be, and anytime we have whether it's through fortune or misfortune, the opportunity to learn something and be better prepared, we try to take that. We have a group that I call the Emergency Preparedness Group that meets at least monthly, and we do assessments of things that may have happened, emerging threats to the university, things that have happened other places, and we try to say, what can we learn from that experience, and how do we make sure that we're as well prepared as we possibly can be, understanding the scale and the complexity of a place like Arizona State University. So to my immediate left is Nicole Uoma. Nicole is the Associate Vice President for University Business Services, and among the things in her portfolio are university security initiatives, as well as a lot of our access control mechanisms. So the system with the Sun card and the Pitchfork card, where you can gain access to secured facilities throughout the university is under her supervision. Bruce Neville is our Associate Vice President for Facilities Development and Management, and as the university's Chief Facilities Officer is responsible for the university's built environment. So we have a little bit over 25 million gross square feet of space on our 5 campuses, and of course other physical locations around the world. And then we have Mike Thompson. Chief Thompson is responsible for the Arizona State University Police Department. These are some of the folks that are part of this emergency preparedness group that works on these sorts of matters on a regular basis. So we spent a few minutes this morning kind of putting together some thoughts that we thought might be useful to you in terms of the types of things that we're working on. And I'll ask each of them to share those with you. And then obviously any of us here would be happy to answer questions that you might have. So let me turn it over to you, Nicole.
Thank you for having us. So as Morgan said, we have a real focus on emergency preparedness. In fact, when I started in this role a couple of years ago, we decided to actually focus in and centralize some of the security support of Mike. So Chief Thompson and I are peers. We work very closely together. Some of the things that we've done recently, so Alan Clark is a former ASU PD police officer. He has recently been promoted to Executive Director of Physical Security Initiatives, or PSI, trying to be cute. He was our Emergency Preparedness Director, so he has a great deal of FEMA training. He trains on FEMA. He's a phenomenal resource for us. In addition to that, we centralized ISAC. So ISAC is what we call it internally, but to make it simple, your sun card that accesses doors is the central security system that we use to allow access. In that system, too, we have security cameras. Right now, there's a decentralized security implementation, meaning that some of your departments have control over those. We are implementing an effort to centralize those under my team. There will be significant investment from the CFO's office, from my office, to do that. It will increase the visibility to things that are going on. Some of them will not be monitored, just to be clear, but these are efforts to make sure that we're having as safe a campus as possible. In addition to that, we are testing new technology, so every day we're approached by vendors with new technology. There is a product called ShotSpotter. We are doing some tests on things to see if these new technologies are worth integrating into the most innovative institution at ASU. Separate to that, though, we're making some very targeted investments in our physical infrastructure. I'll bring up Bruce Neville in a second to talk about that. So as you know, I was a graduate from ASU. I love ASU. Thank you for all that you've done for us graduates. A lot of these buildings have been around forever, and we've had deferred maintenance. And so we have some locks that are back from the 60s. So what we've done over the past year or so is we've done an initial assessment of what the infrastructure looks like, and we're working on a plan, and Bruce will talk about that, to slowly phase in changes in locks. And so as we talk about active shooter, which obviously is near and dear to my heart, I have 2 children. I have a 6- and an 8-year-old, and so I'm asking their school questions around this too. We are doing some research to see what the best technology is. Obviously, I'm not a physical infrastructure expert like Bruce is here, but doors swinging in versus swinging out are different. And we need some easy implemented methods for people to secure themselves in the event something happens. So we're looking at a long-term infrastructure investment in locks. In addition to that, we do understand the concern and anxiety around everything going on, and yes, it does seem to be happening more and more. So we're looking at, is there an inexpensive, easy-to-use, short-term thing that we can do soon? We have some ideas. When things like this happen, for-profit companies never waste a great crisis, right? So there's a ton of product out there. Before we just throw things in people's hands, we need to make sure that they don't have unintended consequences and that they attack the root cause of the issue as much as possible. So we're looking at that. Because you're so important and because often you're the one standing up here with your students, we want you to be a part of the solution, so we have initial research done on some of these things. We will be looking for faculty expertise and a focus group of sorts to help us make sure that us that live this every day, that see these vendors come through, that something that we put in a classroom is actually implementable and keeps us safe. So I'll turn it over to Bruce Neville, our Chief Facilities Officer.
Thanks, Nicole. So just to frame the problem somewhat, so as Morgan mentioned, we've got 25 million gross square feet. We've got 1,200 buildings across all 4 campuses that comprise ASU. And if you start looking at just trying to get a subset of that, of just the research labs, the teaching labs, the conference rooms, and the classrooms, which are, arguably your assembly areas, there's 4,826 of those spaces. Now, some of those spaces have, if they're a smaller classroom, have 1 door. Some classrooms have 20 doors. And like Nicole mentioned, the solution for being able to lock those doors depends greatly on whether they swing in or whether they swing out. So at this point, we're trying to get a handle on exactly how many doors do we have. And the good news, I guess, is our initial assessment is over half of them you can already lock from the inside. So that's about 58%. So that's the good news. But we've got another 40% which equates to about 2,000 doors. And like I said, we don't have an exact count. Which of those large assembly areas we would still want to install some sort of mechanism to be able to lock the door from the inside. It's a slightly easier problem if the door swings in. You can actually put something low-tech, like mechanical, to keep the door from swinging in. If it's a swing-out door, it's a little bit more complex. I've partnered with some of my folks across the Pac-12 schools. There's various technologies out there. The range of costs could be, $1,000 to $4,000 per door, depending on which we go with, and we haven't made a determination which technology. So it's not a low-cost solution to get all these doors fixed. So that's part of the challenge that we've got. But I guess I would just leave you with that we're very aware of it. We've got a pretty good handle on the number of doors, the number of spaces, and we're sort of in the assessment mode right now. What technology do we want to apply, and what would be the priority, what would be the ranking, which doors would we hit first? So I will turn it over to my colleague, Mike, and then we'll open it up for any questions. Thank you.
Good afternoon. Good to be in front of you again. Morgan asked me to talk about a few things that we do here at ASU so that you guys have a better understanding of what the police department does to try to help encourage safety and continue with a safe campus. So our police officers are patrolling on a daily basis. We work here 24/7, 365 days a year. We have a 24-hour dispatch center that accepts all 911 calls that are coming in from inside the university, as well as phone calls that come in on the cell phone that are in the region of the university campus. So we get all of those. All of the officers responding have emergency first aid kits, which are have all kinds of tourniquets and things like that. So if we had to deal with some kind of an emergency, we could. We have lots of active shooter training that we conduct. So our crime prevention unit has several trainings that they can schedule with individual groups. There are also on our website several classes that are already set up that are coming up in the near future. I think there's about 7 or 8 of them that are scheduled immediately within the next month and a half. Most of them are going to be over at the Computing Commons here on the Tempe campus. The reason they're doing that is they're working on fine-tuning the technology, but people will be able to remote in from different campuses if they can't attend the class in person. And on top of that, again, if you want to have the crime prevention folks come in and actually look at your particular workspace personally, they can do that. Look for any vulnerabilities, give advice on how to make your area a little bit safer, and to give you some specifics on what to do in the event of some kind of active shooter or emergency event. One thing that we have that we work with Homeland Security on is their program, See Something, Say Something. Any of you have been to New York City and down in the subways, you'll see those same signs down there. We do the same program here at ASU, and we encourage everybody to, if you hear something or see something, please let somebody know. that can do something about it. That is probably by far the #1 thing that will help prevent something major from happening on any of our campuses. Most of the things that we've talked about so far are kind of reactionary or preventative. Something's happening, so I got to lock the door. We would hope that we can thwart it before it even gets close to that and actually address that. So as faculty members, you are going to see things in your classrooms, changes in behavior, things that they're writing in their papers that weren't necessarily part of the syllabus, and what you weren't really aiming for, they are writing in their papers. And so do not hesitate to contact somebody in counseling or somebody in the dean's office if your spidey senses start going off and you think, this doesn't sound right. It's always better for us to check that out. And then the last thing that I'm going to leave you with is, if I can see by a raise of hands, how many people have a smartphone in here? How many people have LiveSafe loaded on their smartphone? Please load LiveSafe on your smartphone. It's free. It doesn't cost anything. And you will get notifications through that. That is how we're sending out a lot of our notifications to the campus. On any kind of danger, any kind of traffic backup somewhere, chemical leak, whatever, we're sending it out over LiveSafe. We're also sending out those texts as well, but the university is trying to migrate away from the text messages and go to LiveSafe. So we're encouraging everybody to go to LiveSafe. That is only one aspect of LiveSafe. The other pieces is that if you encourage your students and your coworkers to download it as well, you can text directly to our dispatchers quietly and anonymously into the dispatch center, and they can text you back. And they can have an officer on their way to your location without anybody even knowing. You can send a text, you can send a photograph, you can send a video clip, you can send a wave file. So that is we get some tips that way as far as videos or photographs, and they'll say, hey, this guy just backed into another person's vehicle, and they'll snap a photo. Or this person's acting suspicious in my classroom, and they'll send a photo and text a message. And then we show up and we'll address the issue. So you're not alerting everybody or alerting the person that you're trying to watch that we're on our way. So I highly encourage you and your students to please use that. It's a great tool. There's a lot of other things that you can do with that. I won't go into all of that. There is a video on our website that you can go in there and watch about LiveSafe. There are videos on our website for the active shooter training if you don't want to go to the actual training. Left some brochures in the back of the room about LiveSafe. I have them in English, and somebody translated them into Mandarin for us. So if you can read that, knock yourselves out. And that's it. The classroom video that we're making, you mean? Yeah, so this semester, students that are working with the Department of Emergency Management through Nicole's area, and we are actually making a active shooter video that is ASU specific. Right now, the ones that we have on there are kind of generic, but they still give you the same message. But this will be more ASU specific. And that will be done this semester, actually, because it's a group of students that are helping us work on that are in that program. So I think it's a project for them to get done this semester. So.
The only other thing I was going to mention is someone needs help with LiveSafe. I've noticed that some people didn't download it. It wasn't because they didn't want to. They didn't know how. We're going to be here afterwards, and I'm happy to show anybody. And demonstrate. Your IT department should be able to do it as well. But just to reemphasize what Mike's saying, that is a technology we invested in, and the more people that have it, the better off we'll be, and happy to personally one-on-one set it up for you.
By the way, it does not track you unless you want it to. There's a lot of people that, especially students, are like, no way do I want you. No, we're not tracking you unless you push an emergency button, and then it track so we know where you're at. Otherwise, you can send us things all day long. We won't know where you're at specifically unless you turn that on.
So, it's a complex world we live in today, but we're very focused on doing everything we can to make sure that ASU is a safe community. There's probably nothing better than all of us being vigilant. And as Chief Thompson said, if you see something that doesn't look right, we absolutely want to know about it and check it out. In most cases, it's probably just fine. But I can tell you in the last week, we had a couple of circumstances where people alerted us to things that they didn't think were right. We checked them out, and in fact, there were some things that needed to be addressed, and we've done that. And our ability to do that is enabled by, the community helping us maintain a safe environment. So we very much appreciate it when people do that, and even in some cases, if it's, well, everything's just fine, that's great. We all want to know that. We all want to be reassured. So let me stop with that, and if there are questions, we'll be happy to address them.
Okay, let me start at the other campuses because they sort of sometimes feel left out. We don't want to do that. So could we talk? Polly, do you have anybody who has a question for the group? Is there a question?
None.
Okay. Downtown?
No questions.
Okay. West?
Yes, we do.
Okay.
Hi, this is John Dalmas, W.P. Carey School of Accountancy. I think as an instructor, one of the things that I'm most concerned about, and I think our students become concerned about the most, is if something actively starts happening in the classroom. And also, I have Live Safe on my phone. I've encouraged students to do that. And I know we're trying to think of things that maybe could be implemented quickly and also cost effectively. Whenever I teach, because of the nature of the materials I use, I'm always logged into the computer in the front of the room. And I was just wondering if we've looked at, maybe is there an IT approach that we could use where we could have a panic button, if you will, a virtual panic button that's on my desktop that loads when I go in, that the system would know where I'm located so that I could just as easily, if somebody walks over, I happen to be teaching, it's a one click. It's not me pulling my cell phone out, going to an app and trying to do something or text, but truly just a single click that is good as a panic button installed in each classroom that could bring help in seconds instead of trying to bring it in a way that's going to take more time. Thank you.
So that's a great question. Texas A&M actually has this. We did vet the vendor. It's not a supported tool, and so we are looking and we are scoping the landscape for that. So that is something that's on the radar and we're looking at. But we agree that that would be a non-intrusive, and it's not that expensive either.
I was wondering if you could take us through a scenario. I mean, I usually teach, when I teach in person, it's downtown, and it's in 4 different buildings, either USEND, Cronkite, Mercado, or the Health Center. But like this room has 6 different doors. If there was an active shooter in any, obviously it would be depending on each campus, but how would I know what's going on as an instructor in the middle of class, assuming it's not in my class, and have any sense about whether we should be trying to get out, should be locking doors, or what? I just don't have any sense about how ASU would be communicating in those contexts.
So in those instances, as soon as we get notified of that and we know that there's an active shooter, there would be an alert that would go out that would start hitting Live Safe, emails, and text messages as well. And so that's how you would most likely get notified. We will try to be as specific as we can as to where it is, and we will try to give some instruction, whether it's, stay away from this particular area. But the best thing that you can do as an instructor is have your students stand up, get to the doors, look out, leave your things. Don't worry about packing up your laptops and your iPads and your books and everything else. Leave them. Go to the doors. Do you hear anything? Do you see anybody running? If not, get the heck away from campus. I would say that's your first thing. Is when we teach this, it's run, hide, fight. So if you know that you have the opportunity to evacuate your area and move away from wherever it is that they're telling you this is happening, Go off campus as far as you can. If you have to get in your car and leave, leave. And then if your option is you're not able to run, then the next one is to hide, lock the doors, barricade. You hear something's happening outside. You want to try to, stay in here as best you can. And then the last option is if somebody comes in, you're going to have to fight. You're going to have to throw a chair at them. You're going to have to hit them on the head with something. But put up a fight. And then know that at the same time, we are responding and we are going to be engaging with that person. I can't speak to what happened in Florida. I don't understand what happened with that particular officer, so I won't even address that. But we will be engaging.
So one thing to add is you'll see digital displays across campus. We are working on centralizing the content, not always centralizing the content, but having the ability and to take over the monitors that would display there's an emergency of some sort, so that'll be something that's helpful. And then the proof of concept we're doing with one of our technology partners, it's very much in its infancy, and we don't think it's prime time. But it essentially uses geofencing to give different messages to different people based on your location. So we are continuing to look at those types of options as technology progresses. But we won't implement anything unless we know it's safe and the right thing.
Hi. So to follow up, you said you were doing an ASU-specific training. Is that for classrooms? Because I did take the active shooter training, and while it's good, I asked, like, what if you're in a large lecture hall and you have an active shooter? What do you do? And it was very little. And so I heard some things here, and like one thing is you're not supposed to turn the fire alarm, right? Because then, yeah, so these are big things that I think as instructors and faculty, especially in large classrooms, that we need to know. So is that on the deck for?
Yeah, so what it's going to be is the video is going to show, buildings and familiar landmarks that you're used to here at ASU. It's not going to address specific type of classroom or anything like that I'm aware of. But again, if you have a specific type of classroom, we would be glad to come over and walk through and make sure that you have a plan in the event that something happens, you know what you're going to do. That's 90% of the battle right there, is just having a plan in place. You're right, pulling the fire alarm is a bad idea. And a lot of these folks will do that, as you've seen in the news recently, is that the perpetrator will pull the fire alarm to get people to dump out, and then that gives them better capabilities of injuring people. So you always want to be aware of that. And again, try to stay together as a group as much as you can. As an instructor, I would want to kind of take a head count and figure out exactly, what's going on and get the heck out of here as best you can. And be a witness. As you see us approaching, you say, he's back there, tell us where they're at, and we will keep going past you and trying to engage.
We will send out our information to this group so that you have it. Like Chief Thompson said, we're willing to come out and do an assessment just for you, willing to answer any questions, and we will be looking for some faculty representation on this focus group. So we'll send that information out and it'll be distributed.
Nicole, really quickly, I didn't catch your last name. I'm taking notes. Your last name and your title.
One very small question. You said that a lot of doors that prop open outside, you can lock them from inside. So how do we lock them? Can this be locked? Like, I couldn't find how to do it in the...
Yeah, you probably want to.
The crash bars are lockable. It's a little difficult right now because you need an Allen wrench, so we're looking at different technologies to make that easier. But the short answer is they are lockable from the inside.
But we need an Allen wrench.
Yeah, those need the Allen wrench, so we'd have to retrofit that so that we make that easier to do, but they are lockable, yes.
Thanks very much to all of you. I know it was very short notice, but things happen around here. Okay, I think the next step is Caroline Harrison, and looking at new programs.
Thank you. The following proposals were discussed and voted and approved at the CAPC meeting on February 1st. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Social Transformation for the establishment of a graduate degree, MA in Indigenous Education. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, Department of English, for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Interdisciplinary Health Humanities. Request from the College of Liberal Arts and Sciences, School of Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership, for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BA in Civic and Economic Thought and Leadership. Request from the New College of Interdisciplinary Arts and Sciences, School of Social and Behavioral Science, and the School of Humanities, Arts, and Cultural Studies for the establishment of an undergraduate degree, BA in Conflict Resolution. Request from the W.B. Carey School of Business, Department of Information Systems for the establishment of an undergraduate certificate, Digital Business Innovation.
As you know, these are on a consent agenda. Does anyone have any reason to pull one of these things off? Let's go over to Polly. Anything over there?
No.
Okay. Downtown?
No, we're good.
Okay. West?
No issues.
Okay. And I see nobody at the mic here in Tempe, so I think we can go ahead and vote on the consent agenda. Okay, go ahead, Chuck. Okay, the consent agenda passes handily. We continue to have our standard abstention, folks, but that's fine with me anyway. Okay, last regular order will be committee reports. Becky, do you want to come on up?
I'll be very, very brief. We have met a couple of times since I last spoke with you. As Arnie has said, we've sent a letter to Michael Crow for the salary request, and we got an encouraging response back. We've also sent a letter bringing up the dependent documentation with the HR, and also they're looking into that. And the next step will be our bylaw process, maybe clarifying with the units what's needed, as well as figuring out how we can speed up the process. Stay tuned.
And I have a short report from the library liaison, Catherine O'Donnell. The Library Committee primarily functions as a forum for discussing ideas and facilitating communication between the library and other parts of the university. The Library Committee has met twice this year, with a third meeting scheduled for early March. Our discussions this year focus on 4 issues: continuing challenges resulting from the new library service platform introduced over the summer. I think we've all heard about that one. Opportunities offered by the Mellon Grant for the Future of Print, renovations to Hayden Library, and open source publishing. Its members are a mix of faculty and library staff. We encourage anyone who has a topic they wish discussed by the committee, or who would like themselves to offer a presentation to the committee, to contact the chair, Catherine O'Donnell. So please feel free to talk to Catherine. She just can't make it at this time right now. I think we're down to open forum. Does anybody have anything over at, yes, at West? I see something.
Yes, we do have a question.
Hi, this is Mary Burleson from the School of Social and Behavioral Sciences. I received an email recently regarding some events occurring with the Maricopa community college system that I found to be pretty disturbing, and I forwarded the information to Arnie about that, and I was wondering if anybody has done anything about that, or if anything's happened, or if you know what's going on even. Why are they attempting to renegotiate the faculty handbook over there, or whatever it is they're doing? Can we find out more about that?
Well, I know I forwarded it to a number of people who were also very disturbed, as I think most of us would be. Some of you may have read this in the paper, that the Maricopa County Community College District is apparently deciding that they are going to do away, essentially, with faculty governance to a large extent. Now, there's some denials in the paper and some misrepresentations and on, but I don't have any particular information. Does anybody have any specific information? Other campuses? So we don't have anything now, Mary, but I tell you what, I will make it a point to try and find out. And I think it's probably appropriate given, among other things, they're a major supplier of our students. So we should probably figure out what's going on over there.
I was wondering if there was also at the same time to try to figure out if there's anything that we can do to help them. Since they are not only colleagues, but they are our major supplier of students. Seems pretty important.
Well, we have talked about this a little bit at the University Academic Council and at the Executive Committee meeting, but we've not come up with anything concrete yet. But we'll try to do something about that. Okay. Anybody else with open forum? Downtown? Everybody's ready to go home?
We're good, thank you.
Holly?
Nothing here.
Okay. And I don't see anything at Tempe. So given that, I think we're adjourned. Thank you.